What is up? And today we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions. But before we get started, I just want to tell you guys to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share this with your friends and family, and to continue to support my channel. We are going to get into those Detroit Lions. Yes. Those 9-1 Detroit Lions. And maybe about a couple of months ago, I did an NFL preview on what I thought of each team heading into the season. And I predicted which teams would make it to the Super Bowl. And in the AFC, I predicted the Kansas City Chiefs. No surprise there. They have, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, So, yeah. And in the NFC, I predicted the Detroit Lions would represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I did. I predicted the Detroit Lions. And up to this point, with, 10 games into the season, I gotta say that prediction looks really smart on my behalf, because the Detroit Lions are legit can be. They're an unbelievable football team. And look, when it comes to this Detroit Lions team, they lead they lead the NFL in scoring with 33 points a game. They're third in the league in rushing. They're third in the league in total offense. And they're just loaded on both sides of the ball. And to me, I got to shout out Dan Campbell, because the Detroit Lions and how they built this team, it starts with him. And when the Lions hired this man, there was a lot of jokes being made about him because, doing this presser, I think it was now 3 years ago. He talked about how, the Lions are going to bite kneecaps and do all of this type of stuff. And we just laughed at him because, they're the Detroit Lions. They've been bad for so long. They've been a laughing stock. They've been a bottom feeder. All we do every year, at least for most of my life that I've watched football, is we've laughed at how inept and bad the Detroit Lions have been. But you know what? That has changed instantly since Dan Campbell has been their head coach. Every Sunday after the Lions win a game, there's always this post on Twitter from the Detroit Lions Twitter account, and even or Instagram account, or whatever social media that people use, whether it's Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. Well, yeah. But whatever the case may be, you always find a clip of Dan Campbell just talking to his players, hyping them up, congratulating them, and he's just hyping these players up every Sunday. And every time I listen to this man talk, look, I don't play football, but if I did play football and I listened to Dan Campbell talk, I would want to run through a wall for that dude, because that dude is energetic. He's positive. He's high energy. He's the type of guy that I can imagine every player on the Detroit Lions just loves that guy. Just loves playing through him. Just loves playing for him. And because every time I listen to him talk, I can feel the energy right through my body listening to that man talk, and just hype up the players and hype up everybody on his team and his coaching staff as well. It is a sight to behold. I'm telling you guys, go to the Detroit Lions, Twitter or Instagram page after they win games, and you listen to Dan Campbell talk. He is a sight to behold. Really, he is. And so when you listen to him talk, and you just look at how the Detroit Lions have just gone about their business, it shouldn't be a surprise too much that they've been getting better every year. If you look at the Detroit Lions when Dan Campbell first came, right, they were 3-13-1. Actually a pretty terrible record. So things didn't get off well when he first came. But the next year they gradually improved from 3-13-1 to 9-8. And then the following year, they went 12-5, and they went to the NFC Championship game against San Francisco, and arguably should have won that game. But they went there, went to the NFC Championship game at 12-5, and now this year, they're 9-1. They've won 8 in a row. And if you look at their offense in particular, they have the best offense in football. Just by the fact that not only do they just lead the NFL in scoring, but you just look at their weapons that they have on offense, and it starts with Jared Goff, who has become one of the more underappreciated quarterbacks in the league, especially over the last 5 years. I mean, it's a terrific story from him because he was on the Rams, and then he got to the Super Bowl, and then he kind of fell apart a little bit, and the Rams was like, we've gone as far as we could with Jared Goff. We're going to get an upgrade. We're going to get Matt Stafford, right? And obviously Matt Stafford, led the Rams to a Super Bowl. And so that move was justified on the Rams' behalf. But you look at Jared Goff, he went to Detroit, and Detroit has steadily, like I said, improved each year, and they've become a winning franchise and a consistent franchise as of late. And Jared Goff is the guy leading the way. He's become a steady hand at the quarterback position. And so you have him. And you have David Montgomery and Jabbar Gibbs. Maybe as good as a running back tandem as there is in the league. Maybe the best running back tandem in the league, even though I love my boys in Atlanta, as a Falcon fan myself with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. But, hey, this is a Detroit Lions segment. So I'm going to stay on the Detroit Lions. So their running back tandem, like I said, with Jabbar Gibbs and David Montgomery, it's a really, really, really good tandem at running back. And so you got that. You got Amari St. Brown, who's become a stud at wide receiver. Just consistently, he can make plays from anywhere on the field. He can run routes. He can make dudes miss in the open field. Just a stud, speedy, quick, twitch wide receiver. And he's small for his size, but he plays big. I like it. I like his game. So you have him. And you have Jamison Williams, the other wide receiver who's a deep threat, who's made plays all year for them. And you have Sam Laporta, their tight end. He's good. And then their offensive line, headlined by Penei Sewell, who they drafted, in 2021. And so they're just a rock solid team, man. And offensively, they're, like I said, they're as elite can get on that side of the ball. And you just look at what they've done lately on offense. They've scored 40 points 4 times already this year. 4 times. And they've scored 50 points 2 times. Especially, it's including two of the past 3 games. And just this past weekend, they beat the holy crap out of the Jacksonville Jaguars. 52-6. That ended up being the final score of that game. 52-6. And they scored 7 straight touchdowns against them. I mean, that is unheard of with what the Detroit Lions did this past weekend, what they've done for basically all year. And so offensively, they're just a machine. They can just hit you with any play. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They can play any style if they want to. I mean, they're just a phenomenal offense. And defensively, they ain't too bad either. And look, I know Adam Hutchinson ended up being out for the year, which was unfortunate. But instead, they've held the, even without him, they've held the end of the bargain in Detroit. Obviously, they made a trade, and they got the Can't remember the man's name. Excuse me for that. But they made the trade and got the pass rusher from Cleveland. And so defensively, like they've held their end of the bargain without Adam Hutchinson, without him. And so defensively, they're getting after it. They got Branch at safety, who's one of the best safeties in the league. And so defensively, they're holding up their end of the bargain. At least they've done enough. And offensively, like I said, they're just elite, as elite can be on offense. And so when you add all that together and you look at how all the other teams in the NFC has looked compared to how Detroit has looked, I think it's fair to say when it comes to the Detroit Lions that they're the class of the NFC right now. And I don't think it's close. Like, you look at how Detroit has not only have built up their team for the past 2 to 3 years, but you look at how they've looked this year. They're a monster. They're just a monster. Like, I don't think there's any team in the NFC that can beat this team. Really. I really don't. Like, at this point, when I look at how this Detroit Lions team has played and how they've looked, they should be clear NFC Super Bowl favorites. They should be clear favorites to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. And I think they're going to get there. Because, look, as I said earlier, I predicted this team would go to the Super Bowl before the year started. And based off of how things have played out this year up to this point, I see no reason for me to change my mind about the Detroit Lions. And I think at this point, I think everybody needs to take this football team really, 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 really serious as a team that not only could they get to the Super Bowl in the NFC, but they could win it all. That's right. I said it. They could win the entire thing, which for me, as a person that's been watching NFL football for over 20 years, it's unbelievable that I'm saying this about the Detroit Lions, that they could actually win the entire thing. And to me, that's a credit to Dan Campbell. That's a credit to their front office for drafting the right players and building the right culture. And Detroit, I mean, they're here. They've arrived. And I think they're going to do a lot of real damage moving forward for the rest of the season, but definitely into the playoffs. And I see this team going to the Super Bowl. I really do. I don't see any NFL team, especially in the NFC, that's going to be good enough to take these boys down. They look legit. And for the city of Detroit, kudos, because y'all deserve it. Y'all got yourselves one hell of a football team right now.